Okay, before the break, continued looking at some odds and ends, and we pretty much covered all our major learning objectives. We have one more to talk about today, which is one of those that comes in the form of notes on the board. Just a few notes. I think there's 7 items on the list. We'll get to those in a moment. But we have plenty of time to start looking at odds and ends that will just be sort of useful. Saw a bunch the other day. Earlier we looked at, or before the break, we looked at some extensions on the idea of markup language, what we've been looking at this semester, HTML, CSS, which aren't necessarily, they're not the only markup languages in existence. There are other places that we use them, so we want to be aware of other ones. Now some stuff with CSS. Actually, most of what we've looked at this semester has been cascading style sheets, right? Setting up our elements is pretty straightforward. Only the big thing on it is just learning that list of all the tags that we have in HTML. There's quite a few of them. So mostly we've been looking at styling stuff. And I guess we can just jump back in and kind of go through this one that way. What's that box for? Come back over the browser and make another page here. I'll put it in the same folder. That way it's fairly easy to find. I'll call this variables. Variables.html. And maybe on that index page, you can put a link over to this other page. That way when it gets uploaded to the class examples right afterwards, be easy to find. Variables.html. So just a link to the other example today. So this is for when it's uploaded after class. So I apparently forgot to do that at least once this semester. Page with CSS variables. Okay. That way it's easy to find the example. So we need some sort of web page to look at things with. I was kind of set it up like that. I don't know, one large element on here is probably good. So I'll make a section element and put some random words in a paragraph inside that element. Doesn't really matter too much, so I'm just going to literally put random words in a paragraph in a section so that we can identify stuff from CSS and can start messing with things. Now we'll go over to the style sheet. Save it. I guess variables.css might be a good name. Seems kind of useful as I think about it now, so as good as any other name, as long as we can remember what it is when we go to connect our two pages. But this part we've seen many, many times this semester, right? So, no surprise on it. Oh, that's about the same. What's different is, well, it's different for us today. It wasn't one of our major learning objectives, so it gets pushed back to always seems to get pushed to the odds and ends list. But every time I teach the class, I wonder if this should show up earlier. So everybody said they'd had another programming class, and there, we always make a big deal about not hard coding in values.
I'm pretty sure it's a prerequisite for this speed to have the 120 in it.
What's that?
I'm pretty sure it's a prerequisite to have it.
This is one of the classes with no prerequisites. So people can take this the first semester. But since here on campus it runs in the spring, most people take the other two classes with no prerequisites in the first semester. So SDEV 120 and Informatics 109, people take the first semester, and then it just kind of falls that way, but this class can be taken with your very first semester. But in those other classes, other programming classes, we always make a big deal about not hard coding values in. And yet that's all we've done all this semester, right? If we want a color, we type that color explicitly. Someplace later, if we're going to use that color, same color, we explicitly type the same thing or copy and paste it. Usually on a web page, just from the nature of design, remember when we talk about the key principles of design, repetition and patterns are important. So we're not going to use lots and lots of different colors. Right? We're going to have a short list of colors we choose from, so we end up typing the same one over and over again. CSS variables are really useful for that. So first off, we need them to apply to everything. So this is a little bit different than what we've seen. That's how when we started with the pseudo element, the colon for the pseudo element, but we didn't put the actual element before it like we've seen everywhere else. The computer will automatically fill that in. Root is like parent, so it's, HTML is actually a binary search tree. So technically we shouldn't be using parent-child names. We should be using root and branch terminology. They did here. So root is like the parent. So for a pseudo element, this is saying the parent pseudo element. So it's one way to apply to everything. Everything is going to inherit from this pseudo selector. And the browser will just fill in what comes, the actual element part before the colon every single time. Variables are straightforward. We just want 2 dashes. Let me put this in a comment. 2 dashes and name, then store a property in the variable. So, really straightforward. Let's make one says my dash height. So it starts with 2 dashes, and then to fit with CSS, because consistency is nice, most people just go ahead and use dashes there. That way it fits all the other stuff that's built into the CSS. I don't know, 23-point font seems like a good height for things. Maybe a width as well. 123 pixels. I'm just kind of randomly choosing numbers to put in here. We're just looking at the key syntax here. We can come up and add more, but let's set up our section and paragraph to use those. So then when we have our section, we have a height and a width, so we can set the height property. And to access that variable, we use this function var, just var, and then in parentheses, put the variable name we want.
So section 1, paragraph. So we didn't put section in there.
I put a section in there.
Okay, I didn't.
It's always a good form to always put your elements inside one of the container elements. Or the way body has to be there. So I don't really have any control over the body tag. That's a required one for the browser. So inside of that, I always like to put a container that I do have complete control over. And then that sits inside of the part I don't have any control over. Same thing with the width. Dash my width. We go open this page. Oh, can't really see it yet. There's nothing to indicate that division of the page that we use the section element for. So maybe some colors. my gradient would be a linear gradient, a radial gradient. We saw linear the other day. Radial just is circle, so it starts in the middle and goes outward. So we just need the colors: red, orange, yellow, green, blue, violet. So I'll just list out all the colors of the rainbow in the order I memorized them way back when I was a kid. I think the one we saw the other day only had 2 colors. We can keep 2 is the minimum for any gradient, because obviously we can't change between colors unless we have at least 2, but we can make the list a lot longer. So extending that from the other day. Oh, then we have to use it, don't we? So then when we want to apply that, let's say the background image, use that variable my gradient. And we should be able to see what's going on. There we go. Kind of small, we'll probably make it bigger. Let's make it more square. There we go. So any property we have would work for that. So like a border and a shadow. My border, 8 pixels, outset in, okay?
I forgot to link. I was like, why am I not seeing it? I forgot to link the CSS.
Oh, yep. Things like that. Little things. Those always happen, but debugging is definitely getting a lot quicker, right? We get 7 weeks ago, it would have took longer to find that. So we can add a border to it and just use the variable that way. Border property is assigned whatever stored in the my border. Then we can do another one, right? When we float this to the left, then come over here and add an article tag. With a paragraph that says other words in that article tag. So just another container. Can change it to any of them, or use a simple div container, and then as long as it's different, which might take a class or an ID or something, but then we can repeat that style that's already set up without having to copy and paste or look back up what we did. Let's flip this to the right, and to fit with our style for the page, we'll set the height to that variable, my height, width to the variable, my width. Background image, again to the variable, my gradient, and a border to that border variable. Typically use the variables. Everybody's likely seen it before, right? And then we don't have to worry about typos when we try to retype a bunch of properties or copying and pasting and maybe forgetting to copy a line, or we can get useful words to work with. Shadows. 9 pixels, 10 pixels, 8 pixels, and then some sort of color for it, darker than that, so 86, 86, 86. I think y'all see where this is going, right? Border. Oh, not border, shadow. As long as you remember what you called each one, then we can leave it off the other one. Y'all can know what to do from there. But we get useful words to keep track of all of our properties and start doing things with. They're also incredibly useful for animations because then we don't have to worry so precisely about the animations. So let's set some keyframes here. So add keyframes. Minute. And then we'll have some from properties and our to properties. And we can probably just start with all these from properties. I'll start with all these. So we'll start with those and then add a few more, or maybe come to those. Yeah, let's come to those instead. Put that down here. Height, we can start really small. Let's say start at 10 pixels by 10 pixels. The border radius, we haven't done that. Let's add a border radius up here. By border. 47%. Oh, something almost 50%, but not quite 50%. So we'll start the border radius of that property. And then end up with no border afterwards.
Can you go back up to what you actually put in there?
Oh, like 47%. But it gives us some animation. We'll start small with round corners, and then we'll end up big. That's in what's afterwards. I'm not changing, so we don't really need that afterwards. The border is going to be there the whole time. I'll add the shadow at the end. So no shadow at the beginning, a shadow at the end. And then like we saw the other day, what do we need at least the animation name. I spelled that wrong. That looks wrong. Animation name. I'll choose it from the list. Spinning. Oh. Could have called it growing or something. I was going to do transform. We saw transform the other day. Oh, and then we need the duration so that it takes longer than a millisecond or a nanosecond. Animation duration. 4 seconds. The variables are extra useful when we're starting doing that because it's a lot easier to keep track of them. But in general, we're only going to have so many things on the web page. Right? We're going to keep using our primary and accent colors over and over again. At most, we're going to have not going to have more than 3 fonts on a page in most situations.
I noticed that it didn't mess with the words. Words hover.
Because they didn't fit in the beginning one. So notice it tried to wrap them because at 10 pixels by 10 pixels they didn't fit, and then we overflow like we saw the other day.
Okay.
We looked at overflow Monday, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so overflow tried to wrap them, and then as soon as it was big enough, so the words that were getting mixed wrapped, that one was just coincidence in this case. We can change our font size.
Yeah, so that's the thing, if you wanted the word, so zoom in with it, you would have to adjust the font size as part of the animation.
Yes, so we would need another,
From would have to have,
I guess we could do that to the paragraph. See if this works. On the section paragraphs in the section tag. Let's do the same animation. It might not like this because it's paragraph. Yeah, it doesn't like that because we would need another animation that addresses font size, not pixel size.
shove it into the keyframe spinning one of just the font size changing as part of, or would you need a separate animation?
Probably work. Let's see. Font size.
That's a different.
Point. Oh, that's not it. From a 1-point font to a 12-point font. Yeah, that worked.
I didn't.
But the main thing there was variables. So, very, very useful. I often wonder why they don't show up earlier in the class, as far as like learning objectives and the way the statewide course shell is. As well, like today, I usually have a list of odds and ends, so it'll be really, really useful for you all after we hit the major learning objectives. But I also try not to vary too far from what the rest of the sessions of this class at Ivy Tech are. That's why we're trying to take more than 15 minutes on any of these odds and ends. But they will be incredibly useful. Definitely things to mess around with. One more major learning objective that we have to cover, haven't covered yet this semester, which is some notes on the board and kind of an important one. When we make a website, how do people know, how do people find it? Surely only one way people find our websites these days, right? I guess there's a couple down the flyers on the QR code. What was that? I thought somebody said it.
The keywords, SEO.
Yeah, we asked Google to find it, right? Just stick some keywords in there, so I thought that's what I heard.
Yeah, some keyword.
But we need the search engine to find it. We're gonna throw some keywords in there. There's a problem with keywords explicitly. Optimization. So search engine optimization. We want the search engine to find our stuff, and we want to be way up the list. We don't want to be 30 pages down the search results, right? So matching keywords, we want Google and other search engines to find our site. And we want to be up really near the top. Okay, that's what I just said before I looked at the notes in my hand. But there are a number of things we can try to do to raise our rankings. And we call them search engine optimization or just SEO. Fairly short list. First off is indexable content. That sounds fancy, right? Like something new. That's what we've been studying this whole semester. But stuff in HTML tags. Because what those tags do when they switch it from text to elements. And elements are a unique item. A search bot needs that text, can't work with just random text. It needs stuff to be in elements so that we can work with it. Indexable, so the bot can move from element to element through the page. It needs to be able to identify things. Supplement non-text things with descriptions. Provide transcripts if you got videos, and I'll use that to summarize a whole bunch of things like that. And on and on and on. Similar things to providing that would follow suit from transcripts. If you cannot identify sets of words uniquely by turning them into HTML elements, provide an alternative way to see them. Descriptions, we need that to be indexable. Here, let's look at an example. Right, if we went to search for Ivy Tech, oops, not Ivy Tech catalog. I actually want the Ivy Tech website. We would search for this. Right there at the top, like we would expect, Ivy Tech Community College, blah, blah, blah. And we get a nice little summary in those search results. Up to about 289 characters is what it ends up being. So we can do up to 289 characters kind of nicely. We click on that page. But if I go to that page, I don't see those characters. I don't see that summary anywhere on here. That particular one might be somewhere on this page, might be somewhere on this site, but it's definitely not up at the beginning.
It's something that I found very annoying sometimes when I've ever been looking on, like Google searching for something specifically for, maybe a project or whatever, is I'll see something like that and there's nothing. It's like, oh, that's a good bit. I can use that. Maybe there's more, and that's just nothing there. You know what I'm saying?
So notice we have this. The meta tags. So meta is background data. It's more like information. It has to be useful to be metadata. So it's closer to information than raw facts themselves. It has to be useful, but it's data about data. And one of those common meta tags, right? We have the character encoding. In this case, it's in Unicode. We want people who have iPhones to be able to see it. It's not a problem on iPads, not a problem on any other Apple device. That hasn't applied to anything except iPhones for over a decade, but we want people who have iPhones to be able to see the page. Have we seen the problem? Let me show you with the height problem. If I come over here, and on the body, put a linear gradient will work. Background image, linear gradient. They're going off at 45 degrees, and we'll go from yellow to green or something. Nothing too fancy, but when I reload this, notice the page is like, oh, well, we only need this much height. We don't need that whole screen. iPhones do it for height and width. Everything else only does it for height. That fix is really, really easy. I always put it up near the top. HTML, set our min height to be 100%. So basically just always use the whole height. And we can do the same thing for width, but the convention is that we need the special thing for the iPhones will decide that you only need 1 pixel wide to see a web page. And nobody's bothered to fix it. But, so we have that one. And another important meta one is this description. So like in variable, I'll put it on this page. Because this page is open. If we had another meta tag, name, the name of this metadata, so how the browser knows which one to identify this as here, is going to be a description, which I believe this is in the homework this week. Content equals a summary of what's on your website. Try to keep it under 289 characters, but if you go past that, you'll just get a dot. Random page to put an example about CSS variables. Some sort of description, fairly straightforward. And yeah, then like we saw a moment ago, that's what the search engine will, that's for the bots. That's for the bots to put in search engine results. So the bots will look at that. A very easy one, and description is in your thing. Bots are smarter than they used to be. There used to be a meta tag that we would put keywords in, but that one became a problem. Keywords is the third thing when we look at it in order. So, not far off. Links from other pages. Bots view those as endorsements.
Those other web pages view yours with approval or something?
No, if there's a link, it just automatically counts. The bots will be like, oh, lots of pages linked to this, so there must be something good here. They're not AI bots.
Well, that's what I meant. Like the bot says views that as these other websites approve your website existing, basically.
Yes. I didn't want to write the words popularity contest, but that's what that one comes out. They're not AI bots. It's simple selections. They run a counter, and the more, so if it's up to you or somebody else for ranking, if your site has 50 other pages that link to your site to reference stuff, and nobody else links to that other page, then you're going to rank higher than them.
Oh, so it's other pages referencing you.
Yes.
Not you referencing other pages. Because I was about to ask.
From other pages. Yeah. Yes. So how it fits into the internet. So we don't really have control over that, which is an important one when we get to the third one, which is the answer that always shows up when I ask that question that started this section. Keywords, not keyboards.
So
there's a meta tag for that, which was highly abused in the past. So
there's something I was curious about. A long time ago, back when I was a kid, school had a like filter on their internet to keep students from getting on like game websites, but some game websites could get through. I've always been curious, was that like off keywords or?
That was probably they went through and manually entered the address to block.
Okay. So I was always kind of, because that was always the thing that would kind of circulate around the school of, oh, hey, we found this specific website that the blocker wouldn't catch.
Yeah.
That was always a rumor mill thing that always was circulating constantly at that school because the school kept squashing them. And I was like, how are they going about this?
The gaming sites rotate through multiple IP addresses. They use the same domain name, so the humans write the same thing, but it comes off different IP addresses. Is what it typically is. I don't know exactly what they were doing.
I know you wouldn't know exactly. I was always curious to that because how there was like a constant battle between the students and the faculty trying to effectively stop that from happening, but it kept happening.
Yes, so that feeds into this one nicely. So there used to be there still exists. There's a meta tag with name equal keyword, and then you list out a bunch of words. And bots would look for that, but bots have improved. So they want to see keywords used. So another one of those nice little
Like
examples. Let's say examples. A website that wants the keyword motorcycle to show up a lot. Right, it's in the list of keywords. Motorcycle shows up. They want really, really good search results. Well, you can write the word motorcycle 20,000 times, make the font white, and put it on a white background, and it'll never bother the humans to look at that site.
So it's how much that word gets, not even the background, but is actually in content that the human.
That's what it used to just be a counter.
Yeah.
But because of things like that, it's more like Grammarly looking for those keywords. So not just the keywords, use the keywords correctly.
Keywords actually used in things.
Yes, use the keywords correctly in your document. Because I'll talk about it here. The programmers that write those algorithms for the search bots, they're very proud of some of the stuff they did. They're big, complicated, interesting things. And when people find ways to cheat their bots, they take it personally. They take it personally, and they will hard code your search results in.
They will specifically find your site.
They will not hard code in a 3. You have a lot of digits hard coded into where your search result rankings are. And these are the people that created search bots. So it's not just the site that you cheated on. Right? How much information can you Google about somebody? I had to do this recently. Needed somebody's address. I was going to ask a friend of theirs, and then that person left an hour earlier than I expected them to. So I had to go to Google and pull up every address that she ever had. And it's like, well, I'm not sure which one it is. And it was just a few minutes later, and I was able to tell which address her credit card was used to pay the internet bill last month. And some stuff about her husband's stuff. It took all of 10 minutes. And I think I paused a couple times in that 10 minutes to start a cup of coffee. Right? The people who develop the algorithms that know that, you do not want to personally offend them by cheating their algorithms.
I was about to say, because even if you do the keywords correctly, couldn't you effectively just copy and paste your whole site 50 times? To cheat, but I guess that's not something you want to do.
Yes, do not cheat the algorithms. They take it personally, and they will hard code your search results in. And in our modern world, I don't think changing your name and moving to the other side of the world would work. Because they would be the people that would know that you changed your name and moved to the other
They
side
make
of the
a
world.
bot that's just staring at your credentials constantly, like screw this one in particular.
Exactly. That is exactly what it is.
They crafted the search box. They can craft a bot that exists solely to screw you.
Yes, exactly. Every time you try to put a website on the internet, which has happened before, like somebody that writes, their bot looks at keywords, so they write the word motorcycle 10,000 times in white so that the human never sees it, but the bot thinks it's very, very important site about motorcycles. They will hard code in that you will always be numbers like 16 billion and 3 on the search results. They take it very, very personally. So do not try to cheat search engine optimization. Do little things to actually improve your site.
Do not anger the gods. Basically.
No, they wouldn't even put it they would put it the way that you said it a moment ago. They'd be out to get you.
Yeah.
Title tags. This is important. It does look at them. We keep skipping those. Right, that one in the header that shows up on the browser tab. That marker's done for. Don't pass 65 to 70 characters. So keep it short. Preferably shorter than 65 to 70 because browser tabs get shorter the more they're open. You want it to be identifiable, the fave icon, which search bots don't look at the fave icon, but the little picture that goes in there. Oh, we haven't seen that, have we?
I'll put a picture there. What?
Fave icon?
Yeah.
We need a picture. We haven't seen that.
Google icon, YouTube icon, Amazon, all that jazz.
It's already 5 minutes longer than that. I'm behind where I'm meant to be. I'll add that to next Monday's list. 153, we haven't seen fave icons. We've still got some, quite a few odds and ends to look at. Don't pass 65 to 70 characters. Shorter is better. Try to be descriptive. This is a good place to use the keywords. So keywords in there if you want to use them. Any branding. I'm just gonna move this over so I don't have to erase or a little bit quicker. 5 is the other meta tags. The meta tags other than description and keyword, those get singled out. Yeah, a description is the most important one. The bot, what I put here is bots have improved. Description has become the most important one, and it is not easily fooled from your description tag. Keywords still exist and are still looked at, but it doesn't count for as much as it once did because that was just too easy for people to cheat on, and people would cheat on it regularly, and they take personal offense, right? If the people who write the bots feel like they're attacked, feel like they're being attacked when somebody tries to cheat on that bot they spent so hard work, they work so hard on. URLs are actually important. This one's way down the list because good names cost money, which is a problem. Good names cost money. So it doesn't count for as much as a lot of things, but there are some things that it does look for. Human readable is better. And they have put a lot of effort into those bots. They're not chat bots, they're search bots. So human readable is kind of loose there, right? STR8 would still count as human readable way to write the words straight. So playing a little loose with the human readable part.
Especially if you're on context.
Yeah.
And depending upon the context, that might be appropriate, but it might not be appropriate.
Mm-hmm. Obviously, try to put keywords in there. Use hyphens, not underscores. Dashes. Use dashes, not underscores. Search bots know that only programmers use underscores, but URLs are for humans. That was also important for people to type their stuff in. Programmers use underscores all the time, but in place of spaces, but the average person still doesn't. There's still quite a few people in the world that would have to look for that on the keyboard. And the 7th thing is snippets. Like metadata description, but for the element. Description for an element. So like the metadata description for the whole page, only this goes element by element. So that in our example that's open. That's the 7 most important things, and then we're getting ready to look at what you're gonna wanna do with this afterwards, so. Your screen, so in our tag, I don't know, like movies, or something like that. Movies in the paragraph, and maybe we have like a nice little header, maybe H3 header. We can add in this item prop, and give it a name. So like movie Terminator in that tag. And then below that, we'll have some other stuff. Oh, this would have gone nice in a dictionary list or a DL. I'll just put it as some paragraphs. So for get that out of the way. Terminator. I have a director, so let's add an item prop. Director. James Cameron. Paragraph, and this one holds the actor. Item prop equals starring. Is how we would say that. Yeah, I think y'all see where that's going. Right? It doesn't affect anything on our page, but there is this attribute that has become part of this type of data. So now if somebody looks for movies starring Arnold Schwarzenegger, the bots are going to come through our page when they scan through it and index it. Like, oh, here's this paragraph says starring, and it matches that word people were looking for. So that goes on the list of movies that he was starring that particular actor. If I spelled it right, I'm pretty sure I spelled it wrong there. I have no idea how to spell his name, but item prop, I'll refer to as snippets. It's key value pairs. So the key item prop attribute is the key, and then the text that normally goes in our element becomes the value. And obviously that's really affect that at all. Hey, that worked pretty good beside that animation. I didn't even plan that. I forgot that was loaded, and then that stuff wasn't loaded, but it slid it over nicely. So CSS animations are like that, right? Cascading. It bubbles up to tell every other element about the stuff, and then cascades down to tell every element about the stuff, because the debate on which way the standard should be went on for so long that it didn't matter anymore. Even the smallest machines were plenty big enough to handle it.
I love that.
Google Search Console. And after you make a site, you'll want to put this in there. So not just Google search, but do a Google search for Google search and add console in. And here's your tools for your search engine optimization. Where are you having to go? Okay, maybe it's on the. Okay. Oh, well, yeah. It's Google. You don't even have to log into Google. It already knows who you are. Google knows your password. It doesn't need you to enter it again. So actually this site that is for is down, right? So the performance is, the site is currently down. There's not much, still very low performance, but you'll usually have something there on the chart. Hopefully you have something more than 0. This particular one's just been down for a moment. Indexing 23 not index page, one index page. Oh, I guess that's because they went down. All right. Those pages used to be indexed, but that site's now down, so it doesn't. So it used to know what was on that site. Well, content. The overall experience. What's it look like on mobile? What's it look like on data, on desktop? And those bots are harsh. Those bots are like the harshest critic ever. They don't have nice things to say about your design, but it will tell you exactly what you need to do to make it look better on mobile and then improve the results if somebody searches from their phone versus their desktop, and then that will affect your results. You may not have realized that. Where you search from gets different results. It takes the device into account.
So it cares about like what it looks like, or what is it trying like?
Is it big enough? That's one I often get. It's like too small on mobile. There's not alternate style sheets, right? There's not media queries. So it just tries to show a regular page on a mobile device, which it will say is too small. So it's looking to make sure it's readable, easily navigatable, right? I remember that in module 5, I think, did the mobile site, and we had to make the links much bigger and easy to get to. It looks at things like that. Other enhancements, lots of things that can go through pages. You won't need a sitemap usually. In general, you can just add it. A sitemap is an XML file. Oh, I was hoping I could download that. This site no longer exists, and I have the sitemap. Okay, well, let's generate a sitemap. I'll fire fast. Generate sitemap. Where are we at? So this one, and then ignore this message. Which again, this is from that extension, so I really need to go in there and switch to a different extension. Is what it is. Somebody else did something malicious with that same free extension. So it's on the same domain, but not on my subdomain. Eventually, a human will notice it, but there's no telling when a human will get around to fixing that. And be like, oh, these are subdomain sites. At that point, to stop getting that message, but they won't be in a hurry. So here's something that's just gonna go look at the site, see what else there. There we go. View sign up. I was looking for one to download.
It is up there. Well, download sitemap for file.
There we go.
Big blue button.
Yeah, so notice it's XML data. We saw that earlier. Part of the reason I chose today to look at XML. So URL set, so that's from them, but it's all, there's the domain, it was last modified here, and then basically you would want that for every one of your pages. You'd set up URL, where do we have that domain / week 3, and then when it was last modified, because the bots search this all the time, which it doesn't have to be that big of a timestamp, probably just the day. And then within a couple of days, the bots will get back around to checking yours again, because there's lots of websites out there. And they're like, oh, this has been modified since the last time we looked at it, so let's go look again. So you do want to have a sitemap there, and then that just gets uploaded to your domain, wherever you're hosting the domain at.
So all of the bots care about is whether to use that date as we need to rescan and recheck. If they don't care if it's the same or not.
Yes. There's other things you can put in there, but that's the one that you probably want to have every single time. That's what the bots look at. They're like, oh, last time we scanned was January 3rd, and this was changed on February 28th. You need to look at that site again. And it is bots plural. So the bot that checks your sitemap will then tell all the other bots they need to start going through there and right? Page experience, the core vitals, the security on it, links, anything about the the links that it goes to. Some of the legacy ones might still be around. Other actions that can be taken to evaluate the bot, to evaluate the URL name that you bought. All of that stuff. There's a big complicated system, but you can see the address right here, search.google.com/search console, or just search for Google Search Console. And that's where you get all your results and your telemetry on how it's going. All of the few points to keep in mind there. Which that obviously that's sort of a very important one. I like to do that at the end of the semester. It's last for our major learning objectives. Because right, we've been looking at how to build a website. So now that we've seen a bunch of pieces, got us started looking at the pieces we need to build a website. We can build a website, and how do we get people to come look at it? And then odds and ends. I've already started odds and ends, and I've got some more of them next week and some content planned. So I'll probably talk till we run out of time, because 8 weeks, we barely scratched the surface of HTML and CSS. There's a lot of useful things, and websites are kind of important in our modern world. You might have noticed. So, especially in this class, I'm going to talk till we run out of time, and I can't tell you everything about HTML. I will tell you everything as much as I can fit into our time. We've hit all our major learning objectives. The big thing, though, I guess I shouldn't say talk till we run out of time, because we've got projects coming up, right? That's the big thing from the class. So we want to make sure there's time to work on the project. Right now, we got about 45 minutes left, where your calendar should be blocked off saying learn HTML and CSS. So we get time to use that. Please use the time productively. I'm sure you have to work either in our class or another class, or I am a big proponent of saying that trying to push through and work when you're exhausted is going to be less productive than if you would have just relaxed, take a nap. So I count relaxing and stepping away periodically as productive. So maybe you need to do that. A lot of people do, usually around week 7, right? A quick 45-minute nap will be productive in the long run if you were exhausted and really need it. Just try to do stuff when you're retired. But please use the rest of our time productively. If you have any questions, let me know. Does anybody have any questions before we wrap up here today? Okay, I assume the silence means no questions. I see one in the chat room. Yeah, 5 seconds is no. It's time to put something in the chat or unmute if there is one. So if you have any, let me know. Otherwise, I'll see you all on Monday. Everybody have a great weekend.